Hey, welcome to another episode of Dave's Imaginations. Today, we're going to recap our game from Thursday, July 20th, as our adventurers attempt to take on the big boss herself, Symmetrix. Symmetrix, who's been looking for the Book of Dragons in the base of a wizard's tower, has figured out the sub-level, but hasn't figured out the second sub-level. And our adventurers had gone to her camp and found their friend Dag laying there. The same friend that had mysteriously also been at their other camp. Two Dags, what is going on? And they attempted to go and find Symmetrix, and they're trying to take care of Symmetrix before Symmetrix has the purple worm arrive at Fortitude to overturn the city until it finds the book for itself. So our adventurers have stormed the castle, if you will, to take on Symmetrix, and we're in the middle of the battle. It's our second week of battle, and we're going to talk about how that battle is going right after this. Adventurers had made their way from the orc camp where they had stormed into a tent and saw Symmetrix, a wizard they thought they had killed, another dark wizard, and Dag lying on a cot. With seeing them there, Symmetrix grabs her gear and teleports the four of them somewhere away. And then also, as she does that, she produced an earth elemental to cover her escape. The party decides to flee from the earth elemental and makes their way to Fortitude, believing that Symmetrix had teleported into the wizard's tower. They had, and as they got there, they did a flyby. I think it was Katota had a fly spell and flew into town, and just as he got close to the wizard's tower, he turned himself invisible and flew over where he saw the trap door into the lower level of the wizard's tower was open. With that information, and they're talking to themselves telepathically, Katota is told that is bad, that is real bad, and that they should regroup and discuss their next action. And they discuss and they decide that they are going to go in and take on Symmetrix once and for all. And so the five of them work their way through town, and as they're coming up the hill toward the wizard's tower, they trip an alarm spell, and all the wizards become aware of their presence, and they start flinging fireballs at each other, and the party starts surrounding the whole tower. I know Katota got to the back. Fireballs are flying. Katota at one time had put a sphere of water around one person, and that was 2 weeks ago, and that is how we started last week, as we were in full confrontation. Now, we went through our turn order, we kept the turn order, and as we got I think Darcel goes first, and I don't remember what he does. They did something, and the second turn were the wizards, and they start to do their thing, but eventually it became Symmetrix's turn. Symmetrix, who had not had a turn yet, she was notified with an alarm spell. It took a couple turns for her to come up. She came up, and she had cast an illusion spell. She had cast Mislead. Allows her to project herself as a mirage to someone else as she stays back invisible somewhere else, which is what she did. And she stepped out in mid-battle amongst everyone throwing fireballs. She steps out and says, "We don't need bloodshed. Well, why don't you stop? If you would just come with me, we can talk through this. If you would just give me this, tell me where this Book of Dragons is." And they telepathically all talk to each other. It's like, no, we're not going to do this Book of the Dragons that they believe will allow her the ability to create Draco Liches and turn Tiamat perhaps into a Draco Lich. They figure, but Symmetrix at the same time had said, "Now, I don't want bloodshed. I don't want to hurt anyone. But if you don't tell me, I have told Darkmar and the other orc encampment to start killing people in 10 minutes if I haven't gotten my way." But our party says, "Enough! We don't care about that. the fate of the world is at hand, and the fate of these few people don't outweigh the fate of the world. And of course, Christian, or Lorne, as it were, would feel that way as the lawful good paladin steps out, and as Symmetra comes out and puts her hand on Lorne. Lorne takes his mighty broadsword and makes him whack. I think he rolled a natural 20. It's a full effect through, and goes right through the mirage, and that's when they learn that she's not really there. Oogway had cast a spell, and what was that spell Oogway had cast? Oogway had cast a spell of Blade Barrier. Create a vertical wall of whirling razor-sharp blades made of magical energy. The wall appears within range, lasts for the duration. You can make a straight line. He curled it up into this room, the room where the mages were. And so one thing I don't think we got right in this spell, it says when a creature enters the wall area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, and we played it that it didn't take damage until its turn started. I don't think that's correct. I think it should have happened. I think it should have been both, as it's cast and then again on its turn, making it very potent. Because enters the wall's area for the first time, I think is, to me, means the same as the wall entering its area for the first time. I think they should have had the damage both times, and I think that's how we'll play it in the future. And there's a lot of spells that have wording like that, and I think that's the way it should happen. So, Blade Barrier inside this building full of the elves. Now, Symmetra doesn't care. She's a mirage, right? So that jig is up, and inside the wizards are taking damage, and someone inside there dispels the water sphere that had dragged three of its companions in the sphere across the back of the wizard's chamber, and had collected them, and they were all stuck in there. They didn't get turns because they were stuck in the ball, but a different wizard took his turn and dispelled that watery sphere. And then from there, they all used a misty step to get out of the building, and only to see Tota and Lorne in the vicinity, and there was a little bit of exchange there. But they both somewhat retreated, as they'd both taken damage. They both somewhat retreated, and our team had regrouped again, and the wizards had regrouped again. The wizards had made their way back into the main level of the wizard's tower, and our team had made their way to the front, and then into the wizard's chamber. Now, before that, at some point, one of the cultists had been changed into a giant ape. And in turn, I believe it was Zerwak changed Darcel into a giant ape. So we had a giant ape standoff as they started to battle, and eventually they wore down the wizard's giant, the cultist giant ape, and as the fireball had lit the chamber on fire, weakened the roof, and the giant ape burst out of there, and eventually enough damage had taken that it fell back in, and the cultist had died. Now, so that all was beforehand, and our group had gone back into the wizard's chamber, but at this point, a couple turns had passed, allowing Symmetra to return to her form, fly up into the air, and start to cast chain lightning. And I thought the imagery was pretty cool. The clouds started to burrow up, electricity starts to fill, your hair starts to tingle as the static energy fills the air, and bzzzt, as the chain lightning hits our giant ape and chains off to 3 others, I believe it was, giving them a nice, heavy hit point damage. So they all retreat inside, out of the area of the chain lightning, and under the weakened rooftop of the wizard's chamber. And the next turn, Symmetra used a telekinesis spell to collapse that rooftop on top of them, pinning them down, pinning many of them. The ape still was good, but pinning many of them down, or they used an action to break themselves free. And there's quite a bit of damage as this stuff. Now, as we At this point, the other wizards had gathered on that main floor, and they were holding their actions pretty quiet. We don't know what they're doing up in there. Can't really see. But we did establish the door that would go into there would open outward or into the main floor of the wizard's tower. And so a lot of healing happened in here, and people diving under tables, pinned but not harmed underneath the table, as Katuta had given up his role and to save Zerok. Yeah, very nice of him. And a lot of healing going on, but the damage is not done. And where we ended the night was Symmetrix took a necklace of fireballs, and we had to roll. Someone rolled, I think we rolled a 7. The necklace had 7 beads on it, 7 beads that could be used each to cast fireball. But she cast the whole necklace and threw it on top of the downed roof, on top of our person. The only person that escaped, I believe, was the ape. Everyone else was hit by this massive fireball, but another magic item used up. So, one thing to show is, I thought it might be interesting to see. Here, this is Symmetrix battle so far, and just a summary of some of the spells that Symmetrix has used. All on the same day. This is the same day that she was disrupted, woke up and disturbed. Not woke up. She was already awake. Just beginning her day when the adventurers had come into her tent, and so this is that same day, and she cast a time stop, and she cast a conjure elemental, and she cast a dispel when she dispelled the scrying, and then she ultimately cast a teleportation. Now some of these she did straight using spell slots, but the conjure elemental she used her staff. Now beyond that, then she teleported back into Fortitude, and that's when she cast her Mislead, and then a Chain Lightning, but she upcasted that as the 8th level. Then she used a Fly, and then a telekinesis, which she used a staff for, and that staff has 50 charges and recharges a good amount of charges, so it's reasonable to think that staff had 50 charges in it. And so that's all she's done today. She has plenty of power in her and plenty of ability left in that staff still. Not to mention that she has wizards still. Now, some of the wizards, that was another thing I should show you. D&D Beyond is nice enough to have many. If you search in the monster manual or D&D's monsters for wizard, they give you a lot of different choices of wizards. And I flip through these, and I can see that they have levers from 5th level to 9th level. Now, I've been mostly using a version of this transmuter wizard. If we open that guy up, and he's got the fireball, the polymorph spells. Now, one thing to notice in here, and I believe this is straight out of Monsters of the Multiverse is the book that's from. One of the things they started doing, and I think you should be aware of, that they each have multi-attack. This transmuter wizard makes 3 arcane bursts, and the arcane burst melee range attack of +6 to hit, 5 feet or range of 120, so quite a range. On a hit, it does 3d10 plus 3 damage. So each wizard could have 3 of these arcane bursts, each at +6 to hit. Each hit would do 19 points of damage. This is acid damage, so this is nothing to scoff at. And they have these transmuter stones that Katuta has already taken 1, and I'm sure she's very eager to get it back. The transmuter casts alter self or change the benefit of the transmuter of the bearing stone. All right, so yeah, it can alter itself, basically changing its appearance if it wants to. So most of them are transmuters, but they're not all. I would say they're not all. At least one of them is more of a healing type. You don't know exactly what this person is, the male is, but there is at least one other that is not a transmuter wizard. And it's not exactly this. There are, I have made additions to it that I think were reasonable. And I gave them a couple extra cells, so at this point they're probably not challenge rating 6 or 5. They're probably more like 6 or 7. But you guys are 13s, and you should have no problem. However, there are a lot of them. So just keep in mind that although they might have used up some of the spell slots, I know many of them have cast Fireball a couple times, and they shouldn't be able to do it anymore. So I've noted that, and I'm trying to be fair. So they shouldn't be able to cast most of them, many of them can't cast Fireball anymore. I know another one casts Polymorph already. So they have been using up their spell slots. I have been keeping track, but they do have abilities that do not require spell slots. So we should keep that in mind. So that's how we ended the night. You are pinned in the old wizard's chamber. The roof had fallen in, and a fireball casts down on top of that. And we'll begin the night, starting with there, in battle, in full activity. Will our party be able to defeat Symmetrix and her minions? Will they be able to save Fortitude? Will they be able to stop the purple worm's attack? Will they be able to keep the Book of Dragons, Tome of Dragons safe, or destroy it before Symmetrix has the ability to take it for herself? There were some inquiries. How could we possibly destroy the Tome of Dragons? And in my mind, this is a magic item. This is a mighty magic item. Now, Zurok would know that as a dragonologist. He would know that. And so he would also know that it can't be destroyed by normal means. Just like we did with the Dragon Mask. We had to go on a quest to get the items to destroy the Dragon Mask. And I would say the same would be true for the Tome of Dragons. If you went on the quest for a flail snail and ground up its thing and made a bomb and blew it up, that makes sense. Makes sense. If you put it in lava and it sank in there, it might get encased in stone. It might be encased in lava. I'm not sure it'd be destroyed. This isn't the One Ring of Lord of the Rings. But, we'll see. You can make your own decision. How would you deal with it? What is your plan? What would you like to do? How are you going to survive? How would they survive an attack of multiple wizards? Not to mention a boss wizard such as Symmetrix. A high-powered, geared-up wizard such as Symmetrix. What would you do? Would you try to isolate her and attack her one-on-one? They had the opportunity. They chose not to. They don't know. They don't know what's underneath the wizard's house. There might be a trap down there. Might be. It's a good idea. Maybe I should do that. We'll have to see. We'll have to see as we will play tomorrow. As I record this, it's gonna be tomorrow. As we play tomorrow on July 27th, Thursday, July 27th, Dave's Imagination presents Dark Queen Ascension, The Fate of Fortitude. Hey, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Otherwise, hopefully you'll tune in tomorrow. See you then. Take care.